Good morning or afternoon from wherever you calling from. Inasmuch as that time is only a concept, even though it certainly appears real on the body or to the body itself is a concept, as is space. So regardless of where the body is in time and space, hello. Let's take note, as we simply abide, that our abidance is in awareness. Awareness is what we actually are, regardless of where the body is located. And this awareness, which is the heartfelt radiance, I am, this I amness is, even before the thought I am can take rise. Be aware that I am is the true nature of being, pure being, the very self that is universal in nature, prior to time, prior to space, therefore not subject to time or subject to space. Yes, the body lives in time and space. Time is necessary as well as space, even to have a body. Space is necessary to maintain the volume of the body. Time is necessary to measure the duration of the body, its life, that is, and its movement about in space. But these are both concepts. They both being concepts are necessary for the body to even exist. This being the basis of the body's existence, being totally conceptual, that means that the body itself is merely a thought, a concept, in the awareness, the very self that we all are. Let's remain in this pure awareness that we all are, prior to identification with the body, prior to any association with the body, for the next few minutes, in stillness and in silence. Now, as we abide in this stillness and silence of pure being, the very self, let's recognize that this pure awareness is not different. The being the I am is the same I am that was realized by the prophet Moses on Mount Sinai some 5,000 or so years ago, recorded in the Bible in all capital letters, referring to his own enlightenment, his realization that the I am that he and all of us are is not different than the I am that is the pure being of God. The very name of God is I am. And it's recorded in the 15th verse of Exodus 3, chapter 3, 14 and 15. I am is my name unto all generations. I am the name of God. Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within us. It is this very I am, this very being of the very self that we all are. Now the Vedas mention 3 taints. These taints are of the mind. The sense of doing, the sense of knowing as a separate knower, that's to eat from the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, and the taint of desiring. But of these, the foremost is the ego, the sense of knowing as a separate entity in relationship to the body or doing. The other 2 are rooted in this taint. But when it is lost, when the sense of I is lost, then the other 2, doing and desiring, will also go. This is taken from verse 235 of Guru Ramana Vachanamala, translated by who? The direct disciple of Sri Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, when he was translating the poetic form by the author Muruganar, again a direct disciple of Sri Bhagavan Ramana. Sri Bhagavan Ramana often used to say that men are, meaning all of us, ladies as well, people, persons, those who take ourselves to be a separate entity living in time and space, can be of 3 natures as far as illumination is concerned. And he likened them analogously to fuel. Some of us are like wet fuel. It takes quite a while to dry out before it becomes combustible. Some are like charcoal. It doesn't take quite as long, but eventually combustion happens when it's brought in contact with fire. And the last, I should say, he likened unto gunpowder. When gunpowder is touched by fire, it immediately combusts. Muruganar was such a disciple. When he first came into contact with Bhagavan, just in gazing into his eyes, Muruganar became immediately enlightened and remained in the state of enlightenment for the rest of his life in the presence of Sri Bhagavan Ramana, and recorded the spoken words of Sri Bhagavan in poetic form. Some of these spoken words of Sri Bhagavan is recorded in the booklet Guru Ramana Vachanamala, and they have been translated into English by the devoted disciple who is himself a devotee of Muruganar as well as Bhagavan Ramana. This means that this little booklet, so highly special, has passed through the honoring and recognition of three great beings, all three Nanis, enlightened ones. What does that say about the teaching? It is the highest and purest teaching that any of us could study. And this is what the daily messages are based upon and have been for the last year. We take about a verse a day. So verse 235 mentions the three taints of mind, the sense of doing, knowing, and desiring, and points out that the foremost of these taints is the sense of I, seen and felt as a separate entity associated with the body, which is the sense of doing. The body is the sense of doing, action. And the other two are rooted in this. And when the sense of I is lost, then the other two will also go, freeing us into the liberation of pure being as the Master Jesus, and as Moses, as before him, Buddha. Feel it now for yourself. This pure sense simply of being, prior to thought, free of thought. Now let's continue with the booklet's verses. That one was last Sunday's verse, 235. Now Monday's verse was 236, in which Sri Bhagavan says, the mortal becomes immortal by that method by which the mind, which is extremely restless, is made motionless or moveless, like a lame person, free from doing, free from carrying out wishes, Verse 237, Tuesday's message. Learned men sometimes speak of illumination as thought of infinite form. However, thoughts are by necessary finite, whereas the sage is free from thoughts, just as a river reaching the sea is without motion, absolutely still. Wednesday's message, verse 238. The supreme silence that arises as pure consciousness on the death of the ego, through the mind becoming free of thoughts in the heart, is also known as transcendental speech. An explanation here. Speech and silence are identical in this state. Differences only arise from the diversification of the one consciousness through or by way of the ego mind. And Thursday's message, verse 239, the supreme silence, the being consciousness bliss, which is the source of all things, pervades inside and outside. It is this which the wise call knowledge, capital K. Not the mind, but pure knowing, certainty of being. The end of the daily messages. But it may, for some of us, be the beginning of the recognition of the significance of stillness, silence, which is completion. Consider this. A process for completion. Look for the still, silent center where there is no one left to do any looking. Find completion where there is no one left to find anything. Give up everything, including the one who should give up everything, as well as the one who wants to do something in order to bring about completion in any form. Lord Buddha said, "The deed there is, but no doer thereof." Simply see that when the idea of an I with volition and the power to do is seen through as just another piece of content in the awareness we always already are, the pathless path ends then and there, here and now, where you have always been. So who or what sees or knows this I that thinks it's doing, that it is doing the seeing and knowing? What is still there when all thinking ceases? What answer can be given without again reverting to thought or concepts? As the psalmist says, "Be still and know I am is God." Now remaining in this stillness and silence of pure being, the heartfelt radiance I am. Just take note of the environment that we're in, the conscious company that we're sharing. The atmosphere where relationship and communication are potentially available as we come back into this recognition of time and space. Even though it is conceptual, recognize that it pertains to the body. And even though the body is only a concept itself, living in time and space, whereas we are the awareness that inhouses the body, that we're not the body, we have a body. That we're not the mind with its taints. We are the pure being, the I am, which is prior to birth and therefore not subject to death. See and know this without there being an I to see and know it. It's just pure seeing, pure knowing, rising from the source. Allow this knowing and this seeing to be the functioning basis in which we communicate and relate with one another as we now come together in this interlude of conscious company. And let's share with one another what has been occurring with us, what insights we're having, what understandings. But let the sharing be from this awareness, not from the mind, not from the body, to the best of our ability. Knowing that such sharing can be shared in love and compassion and fellowship together as we're all here together. And this is called Namaste.
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 So is there anyone that has anything going that you would like to share? Or maybe perhaps any question that you might have pertaining to your spiritual practice? In Aham we call spiritual practice, yes, spiritual practice, but some call it sadhana. It means when we have dedicated our life to awakening to the true self that we actually are, the true being, prior to the mind, prior to the body. And abide in this pure awareness by attending to it, giving attention to it, and recognizing that it is the location of attention itself, for it is the all-seeing eye prior to the mind. So what insights do you have in this regard? What deeper understanding? What would you like to share that you know about what's going on with you, that you're seeing, that has been freeing you from the conditioned patterns of your mind, giving you the ability to function more freely, more clearly, more definitely, with better understanding and insight. realizing that the meditation, the guide in meditation may have brought one or taken one into a deeper level. Sometimes it takes a while to reorient consciousness, attention back into time and space.
Ramana, this is Fran. I have something I'd like to share.
Fran Frankfurt.
Okay, Fran?
I would like to thank you for these calls. They are very important to me because
Thank you for the call.
I find that I can tune in to the energy and remember the energy I felt on the call during my meditation, and that's been very invaluable to getting myself back into that awareness space. I just remember the call, and then it can help me remember that feeling and that energy. So I wanted to thank everyone for that.
Thank you, Fran, for your sharing. Yes, this is a special time together as we all come into this interlude of conscious company. As some of you may know, I've been living in this consciousness for some 36 years, sharing it with those who are open and receptive and ready to receive it. Not pushing, not trying to persuade against anyone's will, but an invitation to withdraw attention from the trials and tribulations of body, mind, or ego identification back into the pure being of the self. Thank you, Fran. Anyone else?
Ramana, this is Kalanji.
Hello, Kalanji. Okay.
I'd like to share, it's difficult to express in words, but on days when I can inquire at every event that's taking place, or most of them, the day goes much smoother, not only for me, but for those around me. And the interlude is an opportunity to feel and understand more deeply why that happens during the day and how important inquiry is, and just relieving the tension and stress is for nothing else. And I want to thank you.
Thank you, Kalanji, for your sharing. For all of us, every time we take the sense of I that has risen in conjunction with an event, a situation, an experience, any kind of a happening, it cannot happen without the sense of I occurring simultaneously with it. It's just that we often don't see it as requiring the sense of I, because we're often more identified with the event or the situation itself. It might be some person in our life saying or doing something that could be distressful, upsetting, or maybe even pleasant. But the sense of I is always there. If we will recognize the sense of I and make the inquiry, who is this I? Who am I that is having this experience in this moment with this person? Or on this call if you're on the phone? Or you're seeing something while you're riding down the street, on the road, I should say, in your vehicle, or walking down the street. If you will inquire, who's walking down the street? Who's driving this car? Who's on this call? Who is having this experience? The answer is I. I am me. Then who am I? Follow this I back in to the point where it takes rise in consciousness. And at that point where it takes rise in conscious, you make the leap, if you will, or see the difference, very simply, between the sense of I and the awareness itself, out of which the I arises, and choose to abide in the awareness. Not the sense of I, but the awareness that is prior to the sense of I, the pure I am. And you can see for yourself, just as Kalanji is sharing, that's the end of stress. We normally say and think and believe, even doctors say, that stress is related to the body. But if you're not identified with the body, which requires, again, the sense of I, but remain in the awareness prior to the sense of I, you're free of the body and free of the mind, free of the stress in the body and free of the stress in the mind. It's the most direct and immediate way to end stress. See it for yourself. Put it to the test. Don't believe me, but see for yourself. Try it. You'll like it. Thank you, Kalanji.
Thank you, Ramana, for putting the words to my feelings so explicitly.
Ramana,
All right.
this is Karen.
All right, Karen.
For those on the call that may not be familiar with our area and consciousness groups, they are an excellent opportunity to be in conscious company. And I just wanted to share with Fran in Spotsylvania that there is a group about 25 miles south of Spotsylvania, and you are invited to come on Tuesday evening, and it is just an invitation to be in conscious company. Thank you, Ramana.
All right, Karen. Thank you for the announcement. All right, anyone else?
Ramana, this is Jewel.
Okay, Jewel.
Two songs ago, on that particular Friday, it had been a very eventful day, and I had gotten caught up in it. There was a feeling that my sky of being was covered with dark clouds, and it was not a good feeling.
Her sky of being was covered
As
with
you
dark
were
clouds.
speaking, and I was just sitting here relaxing into it, everything cleared. The clouds cleared, the sky cleared, the eye cleared, and there was only laughter. And I want to thank you so much
Well, thank your self-love. The clearing happened for you, with you, by you giving attention to what you were giving attention to. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you for your sharing,
So, Ramana, this is Fran again.
Fran,
though. All right, Fran?
Fran, I want to just let Karen know, I wrote and got her number and I want to give her a call.
she wrote and got the number, she's gonna give a phone call.
All right. Very good.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Ramana,
All right, Carolyn?
as we were reading the daily messages today, I realized what grace it is to have these messages so pure and conveyed to us so purely without the corruption of time and different perspectives and different interpretations, as in many scriptures through the centuries have been subject to. We are so fortunate to have this pure teaching.
Yes. How true. Just think, if you will, consider how many notions, ideas, beliefs, philosophies there are, so many ways of looking at life from a philosophical point of view, how many religions there are. So many religions are just confusion. They mean well, their intentions are good, I'm sure. Certainly those that were founded by enlightened teachers. But the followers have taken on so many notions and ideas and have so many concepts that are contrary to what the teachers actually meant or intended by their words. How much confusion there is. How many differences of opinion, different beliefs, different theories. And so when we have the guidance of realized beings, the words of realized beings, coming from the transcendental awareness of being. Transcendental, consider the word, ending the trance. Those who have ended the trance of body-mind identification and who share their enlightened words, how fortunate we are. I encourage and suggest that we all reduce our our readings, to the writings of only enlightened teachers. Time is very short as far as the body is concerned. You may be someone just in 20-something or in the teens, but it doesn't take long to become 80. I know. I will be. This body will be. In only 3 more months, 80 years old. Seems like only yesterday I was a teenager. I still feel like one inside, but not outside. It doesn't take long. It's very important that we dedicate our lives to sadhana, spiritual practice, to awaken to the true nature of the being that we actually are, to the very self, transcending the body-mind, dissolving the ego into the pure awareness of being, and living free, happy, and at peace. Where is it located? As Jesus said, in us, in the heart of our being. Not in the world. It's not located in the world. I too looked for it for so many years in the world, for peace, happiness. But it's not to be found in the world. Freedom, peace, and happiness are only in the pure being of the self. Thank you, Carolyn. All right. Anyone else?
Ramana,
All right.
this is Mary.
Mary Crowley.
Okay, Mary.
Wallace, I'm sorry,
Mary
Mary Wallace.
Okay, Mary.
What I've been seeing lately, and I really can relate to what Kalanji was saying and what you were saying to him about the stress. And what I've been seeing this week is that it's sort of like whenever I take ownership, when the I comes up and takes ownership of anything in the life, like my work, or my house, and I start to do from that place of ownership, it just creates immediate suffering. It creates immediate stress, and just seeing that feeling that immediately when I see that, it just it's no fun, and it just feels futile.
Feels.
Futile.
And,
Feels futile when
Yes.
identified.
yeah. And so it seems like, the inquiry comes, and sometimes it doesn't even come. There's just a let go, and a surrender, because it is futile. This I that's trying so hard to do and have and hold on to, and it can't, and it just it's just immediate, the stress and suffering. And so, anyways, it's gotten down to my life is not my business, and it's not my life, and that feels, everything is just very easy from that flow. And I'm very grateful. The inquiry, it's like you have just hammered it into me, and I'm so grateful. It's just an immediate response to that stress now. So thank you.
Thank you, love. Yes, when we have dedicated our lives to our transformation, our wanting is now no longer the wanting from the world, but the wanting from the source. Just as Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else then will be added unto you. His righteousness meaning when we align our consciousness with the pure consciousness of the source, then that quality then moves into our life and takes over our life. This occurs by meditation, not by outward actions, until we have first made this absolute connection with the source. Then our outward actions are transformations themselves and influence the environment in which we live. That includes the people, the places, and the things around us with which we relate, communicate, and act. Our environment then becomes conducive to the transforming influence. That's what is happening here at our center. Everyone here coming here is dedicated to what is occurring here. And what is occurring here is just the meditation of the pure being of the self, inquiry. And inquiry is the most direct and immediate way to awaken to and abide in the pure being of the self. No other way is as immediate, as direct. Every other method may be beneficial for a while and is good in its own way, but to go directly to the source, inquiry is the most direct. All other ways require the ego and the mind in order to practice the method, whereas self-inquiry is dissolving the ego with every inquiry made. It's direct. It's immediate. So, I urge everyone, practice it regularly, consistently, constantly, and it will bring you into the realization of your true nature, the pure being of I am, the sourcing essence, God Almighty, the very self. Moses' revelation and realization. I am is the I am that is God. Or, saying it differently, God dwells in us as us. The awareness in us is God. The thoughts that rise out of this awareness is the I, the ego, the seeming separate individual. And as long as we identify with it is the source of suffering. It's the identification with the tree of knowledge, the sense of I, in the middle of the Garden of Eden, in the middle of being itself, of consciousness itself. When we transform it into the pure awareness, then peace, freedom, and joy is our true nature. Do it now. Abide in it as it. And be happy. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.